We're back to the itinerary, and again, dynamic news cycle, lots of changes happening, and lots of people making themselves available for this very important topic in the cycle. Our next speakers are one doctor who represents the Hostages Families Forum, as well as a family member. I will start by introducing each of them. They'll each talk for a few minutes about their thoughts and expertise on the deal, and then we'll open for questions to both speakers before we have a few more coming in as well. So first of all, Dr. Amir Blumenfeld, who is the senior executive at the Medtech industry, with more than 30 years of experience as a pediatric surgeon and in business administration. He's a member of the health department of the Hostage Family Forum, as I said. During his military service, Dr. Blumenfeld served as head of the Trauma and Combat Medicine unit in the IDF Medical Corps. In addition, he is actively involved in the educational initiatives of the Faculty of Medicine at Tel Aviv University, very close to here, and its tech incubator, Jump Tau. He's published more than 30 medical articles, and he's going to talk a little bit, obviously, about the health issues that are coming up with the returning hostages, both physical and psychological, what we can expect from that, obviously, with the experience of the first round in November. And this, of course, is a very different story given the amount of time that has passed. And joining Dr. Blumenfeld is Carmit Palty Katzir, who is a double victim of this horrible tragedy. Her brother Elad Katzir was murdered in captivity in Gaza, and her mother Hannah Katzir, one of the more known victims of kidnapping, was returned in the hostage deal, but of course came back in a very problematic state, and unfortunately passed away not so long ago. So we're very grateful for having both of these speakers on the line. I'll open it up first to Dr. Blumenfeld, who will speak for about 5 minutes, and then we'll open to Carmit. So thank you. And I will mention that Carmit is also a social worker by profession, which is another aspect of this. So please go ahead, Dr. Blumenfeld.
Thank you so much, and especially for your patience. My name is Dr. Amir Blumenfeld. This is like Talia said. And can I go on, Talia? Okay.
Please continue. Yes.
I'd like to brief a little bit, to give a little brief about the situation currently and talk about our future steps. And then obviously I can answer some questions. So why won't we start with October 7, 2023, which I know you all are familiar with, but regarding to what happened with the hostages, I must say that after the attack and the taking over of the bases around the fence, as well as the settlements, the kibbutzim and moshavim, and the party, the Novo party over there, there was a big chaos here in Israel. It took us some time to understand and figure out how many hostages are there in Gaza, and we ended up by 251 hostages that were taken to Gaza. Among those, there were about 160 men, 90 women, 40 kids, and about 30 elderly people beyond the age of 65. I will probably mention it again, but this kind of event never happened in the past before, not in the Western world, as far as I know, never, ever again. Such a huge diversity within ages, 10 months to 84 years of age. Men, women, obviously, young, old, in shape, out of shape, chronic diseases, need some treatment. This never happened anywhere before. And this was the first time we needed to act and to try and do something about it. Now, first thing we did was try to figure out what would be the medical consequences of this long stay in tunnels or in captivity. And since there was no case like that, I needed to go and find out in the literature, which is kind of a similar or surrogate, what happens to people who stay in tunnels for a long time. And what I found out after looking in the literature for a long time is that every system in the body is damaged due to this stay in captivity, especially in tunnels. It's the brain, it's the heart, these are the lungs, the gastrointestinal system, the muscles, the bones, everything, the hormones, everything is affected only by this stay in these tunnels under the ground. And the most important factor is the time that passes. I mean, if they stay for a few weeks or few days, then nothing seriously happens and they can really go back to their lives and everything will be okay. But we're not there. We're in these years or months era. And after such a long time, 15 months, we pretty much expect many illnesses, both physically and mentally, actually from each and every one. It doesn't matter who he was before, okay? And what was his shape before or medical condition. That means that right now, we consider everyone as humanitarian cases. We cannot differentiate. It's the young, the old, the women and the men. Everyone is in terrible shape. First of all, only the captivity or the hostage situation, as I said, can cause serious medical issues. But in addition, there were trauma, either when they were taken hostages or during the time when they were tortured, sexual assault, chronic diseases were not treated by follow-up nor medications. They didn't get their glasses, hearing devices, and they were harassed and abused mentally as well as physically. So we're talking about people, and the last thing obviously is the diet. One of the dietitians who treated the people who came back said that their average intake, caloric intake per day, was 300 calories. This is fifth from the minimum needed for adults, okay? Fifth, 20%. We need 1,500 calories a day, and they got only 300 calories, no proteins, no vitamins, no nothing, okay? So this is where they are currently. In addition, and this makes them, and this makes all of them humanitarian cases. We cannot differentiate anyone from another person over there, and it's not about the age, nor the medical condition before being taken hostage. It's what happened during these 467 days? 67 days today, okay? We need to change every day today. So this is just due to the time they were there in tunnels, in addition to what happened around them, in addition to the harassment that they got. And I call every one of them, and each of them a humanitarian case that needs to be released as soon as possible. In addition, the winter that is coming, the coming winter, poses major threat to all these people. First of all, they have no reserves. Their weight is very deteriorated. They lost a lot of weight, 20 to 50% of the body weight. They have no proteins, they have no vitamins, they have no minerals. Their mental status is hardly damaged. They don't know what's going to happen. They're afraid. And in addition, obviously, there are those shooting and attacks from the Israeli military that make all this condition extremely unacceptable and very, very dangerous for these hostages. We tend to believe that the coming winter poses such a threat that most of them would not be able to survive or would not survive, being able to, will not survive due to the horrible condition that they're already in and what is expecting during this winter. That's why we need to release everyone and do it as soon as possible. This is what we call as physicians, as well as psychologists, I mean the mental health personnel that are working along with us, and they need to be released as soon as possible. Another humanitarian aspect that needs to be taken into account is the families here in Israel. The families suffer for 467 days. In addition to this mental or emotional roller coaster that they are going through, they have diseases, and they suffer from a lot of situations which are terribly connected to the state of their relatives, kins, and dear ones back there in the hostages. So we have two groups of people who are suffering and who need to be taken care immediately. We have no time. The coming winter, as I said, is a major threat, and we need to take that into consideration. We're obviously very happy that an agreement is about to be signed or already been signed, and I don't know exactly the details. I don't come from this section. And but we think, and we believe, and we demand, in a way, or insist, that every hostage should be released because everyone is humanitarian, and the release should be as soon as possible. We can't wait anymore. We waited too long. Once they come back, they obviously need to start their rehabilitation process. And it's not just physical rehabilitation, it's physical, mental, occupational, societal, family rehabilitation. Everything needs to be taken care. Take into consideration that each of them is going to get bad news once he comes back. It's either his family, friends, or someone else who got hurt or even died during this event. And some people cannot go back into their homes because there are no homes anymore. So the situation is not simple at all. And we need to start this rehabilitation means as soon as possible. And this is again a call for bringing them back as soon as possible. I can take questions, or if you want to go to Carmit right now, who can tell you about her personal experience, in addition to what she talked and understood from other hostages or families. So this is.
So let's hear from Carmit, and then we'll take questions for both of you from the room and from the Zoom.
Thanks.
Hi, hello. My name is Palty Katzir. I'm originally from Oz in the south of Israel. I'm the daughter of Rami Katzir, who was murdered on October 7th in his home with my mom. My mom was kidnapped, was abducted, and my brother was abducted from a different house in Kibbutz Nir Oz. So by October 7th, I didn't know what happened with 3 members of my family. Only on October 8th, we find out that my dad was murdered. And a few days later, we found out that my mom was held by jihad. We got a video of her. And it took more than 40 days until we got a sign of life from my brother from captivity. Until then, he was considered to be missing. So I think my personal story is a very sad example of like 2 consequences of what might happen. What happened when you are able to rescue hostages on time. I'm saying on time, even though my mom came back in a very critical condition. She was alive for 15 months, and we had a chance to tell her how much we love her. And she had a chance to meet us, her daughters, and her grandkids. And she passed away recently because of the consequences of captivity. She came back to us really sick with a severe heart condition and pneumonia and many other aspects of captivity. She was starved. She lost more than 20 kilos. But she was alive. And there are so many people that we can still save and that they are alive today. And we have to save them. It's not only our obligation as physicians, as social workers, as it's our obligation as a nation. And we can also see, only from my experience and unfortunately from experience of many others, what happened when we don't rescue people on time. My brother Elad, along with 29 other hostages, was taken alive, was being held in captivity alive. We got 2 videos of him. We heard testimony of 2 other hostages who were kept with him, Ada Sagi and Merav Tal. When they returned, they told me, they told us, my family, about Elad. And he was doing overall well. He was alive, he was speaking, he even exercised, and he wasn't saved on time. If a deal had been signed on time, he could be here with us today, and he's not. And the military pressure affected both on Hamas, but also on our hostages in a very hard way. We know that 30 hostages were taken alive, and some of them their body was retrieved to Israel, and some of them are still being held, their bodies being held in Gaza. So time is of an essence, and time is a crucial factor of our ability to get our people out there alive, if they are alive today, and to bring them to a proper burial if they're not alive. But time is an essence to everyone, to the one who are alive and to the one who are dead by now.
Thank you very much, Carmit. I think we'll open. First of all, I want to apologize for not mentioning your father as well, just with the rush of everything that was going on, and obviously our thoughts are with you on all 3 of these horrific losses. Would anyone at the table like to ask questions before we open to Zoom? Yes, please introduce yourself so they can hear you as well.
Hi, I'm Ralph Dekkers from the Dutch newspaper, the Telegraaf. I would like to know, probably all the medical staff and hospitals are getting ready right now. What did you learn from the first release? What would you do different now? Not it's a long gap, but still, what would you do different now with probably the people that are getting released right now?
What we've learned was that our assumptions were mostly correct. When the physicians in the various hospitals examined the coming back hostages, they saw injuries and situations and conditions that we were afraid of, but we expected, especially the weight loss. Okay, the weight loss was horrible, and this was the first one. The other one was all of them had some mental issues from the beginning when they came back, which is so obvious and so expected under these circumstances. Okay, there were other diseases that we mentioned in our expectation, in our thesis of or hypothesis, what's going to happen, and apparently, and I'm very sorry for that, but we were right. So this is the first thing, and this is practically the lesson that we learned from their medical condition. What we did there was accepting them without knowing practically what to do, and I think that we learned a lot. So the teams improved as well as practiced the situation again and again. And I think that the very different thing that I'm expecting this time is last time everyone came back and all the people here in Israel, as well as the media, we just wanted to see them, to talk to them. We wanted to hug each and every one of them. And we were so welcoming and so, desperate to see these people. And we didn't let them air in a way, in my opinion. Okay? And what we know now that most people came back were in euphoria for the first several days, and then all of them went down, got their mental condition, okay? And this takes time until they recover. I expect that this time, since these hostages or this wave of hostages were kept 410 more days as compared to the hostages that were released on November 2023. Their condition is going to be way more serious. And we need to give them some time. We need to stay away from the hospitals, from the families, from them, okay? And just give them some time, because it's going to take longer for them to understand that they're here, back, safe, and start whatever they need in order to recover. And probably there will be some other differences, but this will be found along the way. What I know now is that we're very dynamic. So if we need to change something, we can do it very easily and share the information in between all hospitals that are assigned to admit those hostages.
Any questions from the room? Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, thank you for doing this. This is Pia Steckerpa from ARD German Public Radio. You were talking about the hospitals that are preparing right now to admit the hostages. Can you speak about some more details in terms of what are the preparations exactly? What are the teams doing right now to receive those hostages? What conditions need to be given?
Okay, let me tell you about the previous time. Previous time, since there were mostly women and kids, we asked for females to take care of the hostages. It were female doctors, physicians, female nurses, obviously, and social workers, and even the military medical staff that met them on the border were mostly female, okay? Female paramedics, female physicians, in order to make it more convenient for these people. This time, we're probably going to change it, and it's going to be, since it's going to be men mainly. So this may change, one thing. What we need to prepare this time is a separate area within the hospital where we can admit these people and let them have some private time with the families before everyone else gets into this, regional in the hospital. We need to keep it very, very outside of focus, so they can take their own time, talk to the families, hear the bad news. Each and everyone is going to get bad news, and try to analyze and to understand and to deal with what they need to deal with, just the beginning of, go through medical checkups, which are going to be way more, I believe, thorough this time compared to the previous time, because we expect them to be way more ill, way more sick, and it may take longer to understand what they have, what they need, and to start taking care of them in the acute phase. I'm talking just about the acute phase. We probably need to refeed them, which is major issue. We need to get rid of all the hygiene issues or hygiene related issues such as lice, scabies, skin infections, all kinds of this stuff. It takes time. Okay, so this is going to be changed because these people are sicker, in my opinion, or expected to be sicker than the previous ones.
We are almost out of time. Are there any other questions from the floor or from the Zoom? If not, I'll just add a question, I guess, kind of directed at both of you in terms of what your thoughts are on the fact that most experts are saying that ultimately there might be a situation in which all hostages might not return home, especially given the fact that the deal is being aggregated into different stages, and whether or not you have any information on that, and what the families are feeling, thinking, and saying about that.
Well, I can tell you from the perspective of the families that the families are being torn, and it's really, really, really hard for many of the families to feel like some of them are going to get a very good news soon, hopefully, and some of us are going to get very bad news soon, and some of us are maybe will not get to have a closure even. Because the the remaining of their loved ones are not to be found, or the hostage deal will, because of how it's operating, it will be hard to continue to phase 2 or phase 3. And I think it's our role as the public in Israel, and your role as media, to keep on raising those questions and the demand to have all of them back. We have to have 98 people back, whether they are alive or not. And this circle and this healing could not start until they're all home. So I think it's a very bleeding question, and we must start the process of even to be in the post-trauma phase, and because right now we are in the middle of the trauma.
Of course. And one last question that has come in, which is I guess more of a medical question. So perhaps Dr. Blumenfeld, you can answer this in terms of the stage of rehabilitation. How long do you think, of course it will take years, but how long do you think that the hostages that are returning will remain hospitalized in receiving their treatment? Whether we're looking at a few months.
It depends. It obviously depends on the situation, condition of each and every one, but it's going to be longer than the previous time, which was about 3-4 days on average, 2 to 3 days on an average, I believe. This is going to be longer because they will need more care, medical as well as psychological. I don't know if it's going to be weeks or more. And obviously it's going to be different for each and every one because everyone is different. We need to distinguish in between the physical rehab, which is easy, I would say, in a way, okay? We can accomplish very good results by this physical or medical, as we call it, rehab. But the psychological rehabilitation is a lifelong process. We need to be ready for that. It takes a long time. Some people will only start feeling their anxiety and mental symptoms in a year, month, or even more than that. We need to follow up on these people. We need to provide them with whatever they need. And we expect it to be lifelong, the mental rehab. And so why won't we get them here as soon as possible and start to do whatever we need to do in order to save as many lives as we can and close this horrible story to the families and to the people of Israel.
This is very clear. I did say one last question, but we do have one more on the floor, so we'll wrap up with that if possible.
Yeah, Fabiana Magri, La Stampa, Italy. Have you considered group dynamics among hostages coming back? Maybe some of them were kept together. Is dividing them an issue, or can you explain?
As for the rehabilitation process, there are groups and groups dynamics part of the rehabilitation. If you asked about people who are being held together now, I don't know what are the criteria in terms of guidelines of therapeutic guidelines, but I believe and I know from my community, from the community of Kibbutz Nir Oz, that many of the hostages are keeping very close relations and are part of support groups and debriefing groups of what they've been through in captivity.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Blumenfeld and Carmit. Really, we do appreciate any time that you have for us, for the press, to share your stories and insight. And there are a few follow-up questions that people have sent in. So with your permission, we will send them directly to you. And if you are able to answer them, then of course you can. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us and having us.